military intervention to change regimes in another country is very much against international law, although Maduro's sympathizers were very much on the hard left of politics. So what does Sir Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, and others say about this? I don't think they're really in a position to welcome it. And of course, inevitably, people will see parallels with what's happening in Ukraine, where Russia attacked and did attempt to oust President Zelensky. They failed on doing that, and it's been followed by years of war. Russia is, in the view certainly of Europeans, including the UK, absolutely the aggressor and to be condemned. So what do you do about this particular policy?
Of course, the big breaking news this morning is from Venezuela, and President Trump is claiming that President Maduro and his wife have been captured and flown out of the country. This is after at least 7 explosions, military attack by the US on Venezuela. The president says the US military acted within the framework of the Constitution, and Nicolas Maduro has called for a military mobilization. He's declared a state of emergency, but whether he's even in the country, the Americans say he isn't, and what power he now has is a big question. Adam Boulton is a Times Radio presenter, and Patrick Hurley is Labour MP for Southport. Adam, can I get your reaction first to this admittedly breaking and developing story?
Well, it's kind of back to the future. I mean, if we go back into the last century, we were certainly used to US presidents deposing leaders they didn't like in Latin America. Of course, one thinks of Chile and Noriega in Panama in 1989. And clearly, there has been a significant buildup of American force, including, those attacks on fishing boats, alleged drug smugglers. And what is interesting about this is that Donald Trump is not turning out to be an America First peacenik, but he's someone prepared to use force for particular aims. I think what will be important now is what happens next. If there is a peaceful transformation, and if that leads to this year's Nobel Prize winner, Maria Machado, actually becoming the new de facto leader of Venezuela, and there isn't a great deal of bloodshed, then people may look upon this move as positive, although, of course, there is the question of what will happen to Maduro. Noriega ended up rotting in a jail in the United States. Also, of course, this does pose a problem for America's allies. Military intervention to change regimes in another country is very much against international law, although Maduro's sympathizers were very much on the hard left of politics. So what does Sir Keir Starmer and Yvette Cooper, the Foreign Secretary, and others say about this? I don't think they're really in a position to welcome it. And of course, inevitably, people will see parallels with what's happening in Ukraine, where Russia attacked and did attempt to oust President Zelensky. They failed on doing that, and it's been followed by years of war. Russia is, in the view certainly of Europeans, including the UK, absolutely the aggressor and to be condemned. So what do you do about this particular policy? It's going to be another headache, if you like, for Sir Keir Starmer at the beginning of this year.
Well, let me ask the Labour MP for Southport that question. How should Yvette Cooper, your party colleague, the Foreign Secretary, and the Prime Minister react to this morning, Patrick, do you think?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on. I think really the one-word answer is carefully. This is a really volatile situation, and Adam was right. These are the sorts of stories that were routine back in the 70s and 80s when I was a child. It wasn't the sort of thing I was expecting Donald Trump to be doing when he became president this time last year. He did come in with a mandate to say that he would be a peace-loving president and wouldn't be getting involved in overseas adventures of this kind. It just goes to show we're in a really difficult and dangerous world, and a really difficult and dangerous situation for the globe. This is off the back of, obviously, the Ukraine war is entering its 4th year. We've got issues around the protests in Iran. We've now got this, what looks to be the deposing of the president of Venezuela. And who knows where this will lead, but I think we do need to tread carefully.
Keir Starmer obviously will react to this. If he puts any tweets out or says anything about it, of course, we'll bring it to you on Times Radio throughout the day. But he is understood to be focusing domestically his New Year pitch to voters on lower interest rates, falling inflation, cuts to energy bills and real fare freezes. It comes at a time when taxes have been pushed up to a record level, with the Office of Budgetary Responsibility warning living standards are going to stagnate as a result. Adam, what is the level of the challenge for the Prime Minister? You can't just tell people their lives are better. You can't convince them. That's a mistake that many politicians have made, probably most recently President Biden in the United States.
Yeah, I mean, what we're hearing from the government and from the Prime Minister is that they are reaching for what levers they can, keeping down fares, trying to cut energy bills. So they hope that with inflation slowing and set to come down, while no one's going to be dramatically better off because growth is also going to be slow, that people will start to relax a little bit financially. That is quite a big ask, but there's no doubt about it that if people do feel even a little bit better off by the end of this year, that will be a significant boost for the Labour Party and Sir Keir Starmer's whole approach of going slowly. But as you say, Peter, there is this massive problem of the tax take, which is going up, which many people will feel. Certainly a lot of businesses are feeling. And there, I think, there is a need for people to see improvements in public service, particularly the NHS. The government's promised to cut and speed up waiting lists and things like that. So, it's a lot of challenges, but it is at one level, a return to politics as usual, and that old saying of it's the economy, stupid, that is the determinant in politics.
Patrick, from your perspective, you're a Labour MP for Southport, of course. I hope you don't mind me referencing you as what I think anyway, maybe you think I'm wrong, but a sort of critical friend of Keir Starmer. You're not always slavishly loyal to him necessarily, but you can think critically and you can say things that affect your constituents first and foremost. I just wonder, do you think this plan by Keir Starmer, what he said already, is going to convince people they're better off when you're looking at young families, for example, in your constituency in Southport?
Yeah, so Adam mentioned stagnating wages, and we've had a stagnating economy and stagnating disposable income for households now for, getting on for 17, 18 years. This is after the 2008 crash. David Cameron came into office in 2010 promising to share the proceeds of growth. Well, there was no growth. What instead he did was share the proceeds of failure. And after 14, 15 years of that under a Tory government, we're picking up the pieces, but we're picking up the pieces too slowly. Now, these issues are not going to go away. The cost of living is still too high, still too difficult for too many people in my constituency, but across the country. Now, the measures that have been announced that the Prime Minister will be talking about tomorrow, rail fare freezes, the issues relating to household energy consumption, these are welcome. But fundamentally, and I think for the long term and sustainably, the one thing that's going to make a meaningful difference for people and get them to feeling the benefit of a growing economy is to make sure that we've got that trend rate of growth back to how it could be, back to how it was prior to 2008, prior to the austerity agenda of David Cameron and George Osborne. And if we can do even half of that, that's the sort of measure that will really make a difference to people's lives, really make a difference to their bank balances at the end of the month, and fulfill the promise of putting more money into people's pockets. I think other than that, really, we're just trying to make the best of a bad job. And the best of a bad job is not good enough after so many years of failure under the previous government.
You campaigned, of course, Patrick, on a manifesto that talked a lot about growth. We heard growth a lot in the election. We hear so much less about it now because that growth just hasn't been there. Is this economic focus something that Keir Starmer can get back? It's been a very tough, objectively, a very tough 18 months for Keir Starmer. Is this about reinventing himself, or is this simply about taking back control of the economic narrative?
It's about neither. We can talk about narratives, we can talk about reinvention, but I think fundamentally we need policy shift. We need a relentless focus on the investing in the productive areas of the economy. We need to make sure that when that growth does come back, and I am confident it will do, but it's going to take a hell of a job, that when it does come back, that's distributed accurately and correctly into the pockets of the people that need it, into the regions and the nations of this country that need it the most. Now, we've made a good start, but it's not going to be enough if we stop and rest on our laurels of the last 18 months. We've got 3.5 years left of this parliament, and we asked the people of this country back in July 2024 to give us a decade. We said this is going to take a decade of national renewal, and we're only 18 months into that. So I think, I will suggest the scorecard is, we've made a good start, but we need to do more.
Adam, just briefly, there is a Labour MP, Patrick Hurley, who is remaining to be convinced here about Keir Starmer's programme. Can he convince the country, just briefly?
Well, I think he probably can, but I do think there are some, problems on the way. How the economy performs. He's got problems with his own party about plans to abolish jury trial. He's got problems in the House of Lords about the assisted dying bill. He's got problems in the country about the plan to clamp down on drag hunting.